Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got a really interesting gentleman that I bumped into at a local bar down in Yorkville, and he started telling me about blockchain. And I said, "Tell me about blockchain. I don't know anything about blockchain." And the guy, in a couple of minutes, explained blockchain better than anyone else has been able to do it for me. And so, therefore, I wanted to have Ritchy Marques join us today. He is the founder and CEO of Evolve Blockchain, and also the CEO and founder of Health Alliance, Evolve Health Alliance. And he's going to talk a little bit about how blockchain can be used both in health and in voting as well. He's a pioneer, entrepreneur, and blockchain innovator, serving, as I mentioned, as the founder and CEO of both of these companies. He's got a deep-rooted passion for decentralization, security, and financial fairness. He's been at the forefront of building next-generation blockchain ecosystems that drive transparency, efficiency, and accessibility across industries. Richie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate that intro. Yeah, like you said, blockchain's been a part of my life for over 7 years now. It's something I've dedicated to, and I'm a constant student more than anything else. As things change, as the space evolves, we have to evolve with it. So hence Evolve Blockchain was a perfect name for the vision of what I believe the next blockchain would be, the evolution of the space itself. But yeah, like you said, there's so many different areas where we can advance when it comes to adding this technology, amongst others, into our everyday life, right?
So,
Health, voting, there's a few others. Go ahead.
so take a big step back and explain to everyone what the heck is blockchain.
Okay, I'm gonna try doing this as simple as possible. So think of a book, okay? Every page on this book is a block. So you're gonna write information. That could be transactions, that can be data, that could be metadata on this page, okay? Once I turn that page, I have another block. These are all connected by the binding of this book. But traditional systems, you have your records of account for a company or a bank, right? You have one copy of this, and someone can easily go back to the last page and change something on that page or add something to that page. With blockchain, you have thousands of copies of the exact same ledger across the world. And if I'm the validator node and I'm adding the next block of transactions and information, when I put that into the blockchain, it's now updated across every single other ledger across the world at the exact same time. Once we turn that page, and now we're on to the next block of new transactions and information, the page before it cannot be changed. That is set in stone. I can go back and look at the first page, which would be considered the Genesis block, or the last page that was mined or minted, the last page being 3 seconds ago if it was Evolve Blockchain, right? This changes, it gives everyone a transparent location to look at every single thing that happened on the blockchain and can't be tampered with. So we have a trustless system now where if I say I sent Brian one Evo coin, he can go on Evo Explorer and verify on the Explorer that I sent that coin. And 10 years from now, he can do the exact same thing again. It's a immutable record held by a decentralized network of people running nodes, computers, that all update that ledger every 3 seconds, basically, compared to what we have now, where there's mistakes all the time. People cook the books, people do a lot of different shady stuff, and just natural mistakes that are happening, right? On this blockchain, that can't happen anymore. We have a trustless, immutable system.
So how are records kept today, and where do you see the problem?
Well, right now they're kept in offices. There may be one or two people, the accountants, keep those records and keep them, like update them and make sure they're kept stored somewhere in a filing cabinet or a cloud service. But there's, again, only one record. So if you wanted to see those records, you'd have to get an audit or go to that company or place of business and ask to see the books. With blockchain, it's a decentralized form of a distributed ledger. So any person at any point in time can go on your computer, go to Evo Explorer, and look at every single transaction that's ever happened on our blockchain. And this is the same for every other blockchain.
Now, I understand your blockchain is backed by gold. It's a gold reserve-backed system. How does that help stabilize volatility or your network?
So that's our main selling point. What sets us apart, other than our extreme speed of the 100K TPS, we're going to be backed by a reserve of gold. So every coin, EVO coin, will have an asset per coin amount of actual physical gold backing that coin. What others don't have that we will is a baseline value of whatever the value of that asset per coin amount of gold backing that coin. And that calculation is simple, where the total of assets, ounces of gold, divided between the total circulating supply of EVO coins, and whatever that ends up being is your asset per coin amount. Over time, because we're actually deflationary as well, your asset per coin amount is increasing over time as that supply starts to come down. Every transaction, there's a slight transaction fee that gets burnt or taken out of circulation, and that increases your asset per coin amount. So unlike other blockchains where the theoretical goes to zero type thing is always talked about, with ours, and also you'll be able to exchange your EVO coins for the gold itself in exchange for the coins being burnt. So they get taken out of circulation, we send you the gold. Once you sign off saying you received the gold through the carrier, the registered carrier, then we burn the coins, they're taken out of circulation.
So I don't understand. I thought the blockchain was information that was on these computers around the world. And now you're saying somehow it's connected to gold?
Yeah, so we're breaking the barriers when it comes to traditional blockchains, where it's usually all digital, right? It's all just a ledger and smart contracts and tokens on the blockchain itself. We've now connected the real world asset of gold, physical ounces of gold, and blockchain technology to bridge that gap. So traditionally, you're either on the hard asset side of the tracks or the digital assets side of the tracks, right? You like the technology or you like physical in your hand assets, and you can't cross that bridge. So what we've done is we've gotten down that middle ground and given people a blockchain that's not just fast, 3-second block times, 100K TPS speed, right, when it comes to transactions and scalability, but also backed by real world assets. So no matter if you're coming from the hard asset side of stuff where you see the value there, or you're coming from the technological side of stuff where you see the speed, the scalability, and that part of it, multiple ways of seeing value from this blockchain and the rewards we have of being a part of this network, so we can really bring mass adoption. You can never have that unless you have something everyone at least values one part of it for one side or the other, whether that's physical or digital.
So say I've got a whole bunch of information that I want to put on this blockchain. I put it on the blockchain, and then when I take it off, I get gold in return?
No, so you'd exchange, the gold is backing the coins themselves. The information on the blockchain itself, when you hash stuff onto the database of the blockchain, or you use something like our EVO Health system, where that gets put onto servers and the blockchain acts as an access to that data, decrypts it and shows you the data once you decrypt it. That you can get the data, but you're not exchanging data for gold. You're exchanging EVO coins, EVO coins, for the gold that backs those coins alone. Think of it as two separate sections of this blockchain. One being an exchange of gold for EVO coins, and one being the actual blockchain with the metadata and the data on the chain itself, right? But there's the actual perfect account of every ounce that leaves the reserve when someone decides to exchange their EVO coin for the gold itself.
Okay, so I think I understand the idea of the information. I didn't get the idea of the coins. Why do I want these coins? And what's the benefit of these coins? And what's the benefit of having it backed up by gold?
Great question. So the coins are used as the native currency of the blockchain itself. When I send you EVO coins, when I execute a transaction, when I start a smart contract, when I create a token or NFT, I need EVO coins as the gas, right? That is the fee I pay for the network to put my transaction through, whether it be launching a contract or just sending Brian one EVO coin. Now, the gold backing just brings stability to this network. Okay. We also have what we call reflections. So there's a burn mechanism, there's the gold backing, reserve backing, and there's reflections. And this trifecta of these three functions working together in tandem with any volume whatsoever is going to bring down the supply over time. It's going to give you passive rewards in EVO coins. And then the asset per coin amount, as these functions are working, is also increasing. So you're getting rewards for holding these coins. You're getting a deflationary environment, unlike the economy that we have now that's inflationary like crazy. And then you're also getting increasing asset per coin amount. And this coin is being used as the fee or the gas that runs this whole system. So for example, with EVO Health on the back end, when I save medical records to my EVO Health database, there's a transaction fee there. I'd have to have a fraction of a penny worth of Evo coin to have that transaction go through and store that information on the system itself.
So I could hire you. I could hire you to do something for me, some consulting in blockchain, and I could pay you in these Evo coins. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And the other part of this is usually when people are thinking, so like Bitcoin, Ethereum, these bigger blockchains and these bigger cryptocurrencies, they have established large liquidity, so people are accepting them for day-to-day use, right? But if you didn't have that, the gold backing, the reserve backing behind these coins brings at least a baseline value that people say, hey, worst comes to worst, I can exchange this for gold. There's a tangible asset there, unlike any other blockchain.
So currencies, the American currency, the Canadian currency used to be backed by gold as well. So you're saying effectively what you're doing is creating another currency comparable to the currencies we used to have that were backed by gold.
Well, that can be used for that if people choose to. The way we are framing it is a native currency of the Evolve blockchain, right? It is what runs and drives this chain. And in order to execute stuff on our chain or participate, you have to have a little bit of Evo coins to do so.
Okay, you mentioned the word reflections. I've heard this before. What the heck are reflections?
Okay, so every transaction, 20% of the fee, which is nominal, it's a fraction of a penny, gets pooled and then distributed between every single Evo holder. So if you're holding Evo coins in your wallet, your digital wallet, and there's $1 million worth of transactions that day, then 20% of those fees that were collected get distributed between every single person just for being a part of our network. This is a rewards mechanism that we want to incentivize people to come to our network and to build on our network. So the deflationary aspect and the reflections and the backing of gold reserve are three big functions that put us apart from other networks. At this point, it's kind of like pick your favorite. So there's so many other blockchains out there, and they all do a lot of great things and different. They excel at different parts. Some are faster, some are slower, some are more secure. Some have had the track record like Ethereum that's been here for a long time. Some like Bitcoin that started off as a peer-to-peer transaction has now become a store of wealth, a digital gold, right? We want people to use this chain. We don't want this to be something you just hold and don't do anything with. So we're bringing the utilities, we're bringing the backing, we're bringing the functions where people will say, you know what, out of the choices I have right now, I'd rather use this one instead of Ethereum, instead of other networks, because of the incentives they have here, because of the
okay. So let's say I'm intrigued by this and I want to get started. What are the first steps that I would take to get involved in your blockchain?
So first steps is start a wallet. So we have myevilwallet.com, and a lot of people come and like, no, how do we even get started? Or you're going to go to this place, you're going to download this app, you can do all these things, and like, okay, I'm out. That's it. It's too complicated for me. So we're going to make it as simple as possible. So myevilwallet.com, you're going to go there. There's a button in the middle of the screen. You're going to click that button. You just created your first Evolve wallet. Congratulations. It took one click. Okay. You can now use that wallet to accept Evo, send Evo, and use it in the ecosystem. You would then connect that to a digital wallet that's like MetaMask or CoinMask or a few others to do dApps and DeFi and some other features there as well. But the very baseline starting point is to have a crypto wallet, and that can be done with literally one click on myevilwallet.com. We're doing our best to build out applications to support our network and our community. So someone who comes in fresh, clean, doesn't know anything about blockchain can learn, can take these we have what we're going to call Evolve Blockchain Academy. We're going to have courses there. You're going to take these courses for free and get rewarded in Evo coins just for educating yourself on blockchain and taking that first step to not getting, usually when people start, they run into a scam, they run into some type of vulnerability because of lack of knowledge, right? And no one knows anything they've never learned before. So we're trying our best to kind of give them the leg up and the step 1 to 10 before they ever really get into the markets or get into the ecosystem that is blockchain. So they avoid a lot of that stumbling points when we first get started.
We're chatting tonight about blockchain. It's kind of a confusing topic, but obviously something that we're all been reading a lot about. Ritchy Marques is our guest tonight. He is the founder and CEO of Evolve Blockchain and Evolve Health Alliance. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with Ritchy in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everyone. This will be a really interesting educational evening. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking blockchain tonight. We're going to be educating us all on what it's all about and talking also about some of the businesses that our guest has been able to launch on the blockchain. Our guest is Ritchy Marques. He is the founder and CEO of Evolve Blockchain and the co-founder and CEO of Evolve Health Alliance. He's been involved in blockchain for a while now, and he's really got a blockchain that he says is a trusted platform for startups, enterprises, and developers, providing the tools necessary to build decentralized exchanges, token launches, blockchain audits, and smart contract solutions. Wow, we're gonna have to understand all of that. Ritchy, welcome to back to the show. So we were just talking a little bit about what blockchain is and how you get started. I now wonder if you could tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're doing on the blockchain, how you're, making use of it.
Yeah, so the blockchain itself is a network. So if you don't have utility, if you're not actually using this technology to solve real world problems, then all you have is a network and you're hoping other people solve those problems and use your blockchain. So one of the things we did early in our vision and our planning of what we were going to build is come up with a few use cases that are real world, life-changing use cases to really amplify and showcase the strength of our blockchain and what can be done. So one of them being healthcare, right? The healthcare system right now, it has vulnerabilities. It's not efficient. It doesn't communicate one hospital to the other, one country to the other. So you can have all your records here in Canada.
One hospital, one doctor, even if they're working together.
Right? It's actually pretty ridiculous how inefficient and not interconnected it is at this point with all the technology we have available to us. So that was one that we started to fix that problem. With Evolve Health Alliance and Evo Health, we built our Evo Health system, which is going to give the power back to the patient. The patient will be able to control all of his or her records from their smartphone, from their desktop, from anywhere in the world that has a connectivity, because you own your records now. You control all your records. I will be able to give or revoke access to any doctor in the world. There's no more borders. It's interplanetary filing system is the term. We have decentralized form of servers all over the world and use the blockchain as the access point. And your health token is the only access to your data that is encrypted. It's military grade encryption. I can now communicate with 1 or 100 doctors anywhere around the world, give them access to the records I choose. And that's not just a blanket, here's all of my records. I can literally pinpoint, I'm going to give you access to my surgeries, to my medical data, but I don't want to give you access to my psychological data or my whatever it may be. So I can pick and choose which data points I give access to which type of doctor. I would not give the same access to my surgeon as I would my dentist. Those are two very different fields. But now under one application, one nice UI that's very simple to use, I can have every single one of my professionals on this application, be able to communicate with them. No longer do I have to look for numbers or cards. Oh, where's my dentist card so I can book an appointment? It'll all be in one spot.
Richie, help me. I've got a family doctor that's got a system with a whole bunch of data about me. I've gone to 2 different hospitals in the last couple of years, and both of them appear to have very different systems and databases with some information on me. I've got a dentist that's got a whole system and database on me. I got a pharmacy that's got a whole database on me. How do I get that data, and how do I get it all together in one spot?
Yeah, so the next step would be digitizing that data and adding it to your actual database, right? That's going to be the biggest hurdle.
How do I get it?
You have to go to your doctor and ask for your actual paperwork, because that is your paperwork in essence. And now some doctors, I've heard, they've even charged people to get this information, the actual paperwork itself, the data. And that's ridiculous, because at the end of the day, this is your personal data. There should be no one that controls that data other than yourself.
They're all electronic, but they're all on their different electronic systems.
Exactly. And the other part of this is we're working to use APIs on the back end. So even if a hospital is not using our system per se, they'll be able to connect to our system and access the data itself for a short period of time. The other part is you can choose through smart contracts. I can give access to a doctor for a day, for a minute, for a year, or indefinitely. Or I could just decide when I want to give or revoke access to a doctor anywhere in the world. Now, this would come into play when I go to a natural health doctor or specialties that aren't necessarily in the hospitals and the government side of stuff. So I can go there and say, hey, here's my data. So now you have a really good view of who I am, what I've done, what I've been through to make your decisions, right? One of the biggest problems we have is also not having enough data to give to these doctors. You come into an office and say, hey, my leg's hurting me, but he doesn't know it's been hurting you for 3 months. Or you've had other symptoms that you haven't mentioned. So he's going on a very limited amount of data to diagnose you, to give you proper actual treatment. When our system, you can input, my leg's hurting me, I can put that input into my database. I have a high blood pressure, I can input that into my database. And that all gets recorded in basically my health records. And when my doctor, when I go to see him for a different unrelated problem, which I thought was unrelated, he sees the natural progression of something else, right, that ended up with the symptoms I had that day. But it was started with something else and then gradually got worse. And now I'm getting chest pains, or I'm getting something else, right? The more data we can give a doctor, the more data we can have access to, and the more specific data, even to the point where we have medical devices that can connect to our system.
Are healthcare systems trying to do this anyway? We hear these stories about e-health and stuff like that. So aren't they trying to create such a system?
They may be, but you know what? The next step forward is the decentralization and the blockchain part of this. So you can have digital records, but if they're still saved on just a single server or a cloud server, someone has access to that through a login. So if someone sees that login, they're looking over your shoulder as you're typing it in type thing, they can get access to that whole database.
Yeah, well, I hear about these, Doge guys that are going into the social security system in the United States, getting access to everything. So I'd rather have control over my information than allowing the government to. No question.
It's you control it instead of someone else controls it, right? And the only way to access your data points, your actual health data, is through your health token, which is held in your wallet and is bound there. You can't trade it, you can't exchange it. It stays in your wallet. And the only way someone else can access your data is through you allowing them through the smart contract.
So if I'm a developer and I want to make a use of an app or something on your system, do you have any way of helping me get started?
Yeah, so we have all the actual development tools on our website. We have a development part there where all the documentation, where they can start building. If they are a little bit wondering what needs to be done or a little bit unsure, they can reach out to Evolve Blockchain Services, and we can definitely help them with that as well. As we're also not just going to be a network, we'll also help people build that don't have the expertise to do so. But all the applications, all the tools they need to get started and build on our network and excel on our network, be supported, will be provided to them by us. So that's a big key feature that we're trying to really go over and above, is give everyone the tools they need, either brand new to crypto, never started, never ever did anything, or a developer who's built on other networks. And another feature here is we are EVM compatible. So anyone who's built on Ethereum or Binance, we're Solidity as well. So they can easily migrate their projects over to our blockchain if they choose so, because we are the same type of programming as those other big networks. And we take advantage of their on and off ramps as well. So it's kind of like, because of our scalability and speed, the other networks can be, I use the analogy of side roads and highways. Anyone can really merge over onto our blockchain through bridges or just relaunching their project and use our blockchain as a highway to amplify their progress, their scalability, and take advantage of our reward system and our deflation and the backing.
I understand that you actually certify with EVO certified projects for some of the apps that get launched on your system?
Yeah, so that's another feature we've built into our ecosystem. It's called Evo Certified. A lot of corruption, scams in crypto happen because everyone's in the dark. So the person launches a token, they say, hey, here's my great token, we're going to save the world. People get involved, they get behind it, they raise a few $1 million, and that person disappears, and goodbye to all those funds, and everyone got burnt. With our Evo Certified, when your project's starting, you come to us, the foundation, say, hey, my name is John Doe. Here's my company. Here's what we're address. This is all private information secured by law. And because of you came and did the first steps to be transparent with us, the foundation, 10% of every transaction fee gets pooled and distributed between all the Evo certified projects. if I know who you are, your company, and what you're doing, and you've been KYC'd with the foundation, the chances of you doing something malicious go almost to zero. Because if you did, we can provide the authorities all that information and they would prosecute you. Why this happens a lot in crypto is because it's in the dark still. People don't know who these accounts are. People don't know, they seem like they're trustworthy when it starts, but then people see that money and they get greedy and it's like, okay, goodbye, and there goes liquidity. This stops that and also provides an audit of that contract itself. So as you, a community member, you see your founder come to our foundation, KYCs, so we know who they are. They get EVO certified. There's an audit. There's a report of every vulnerability or that there is no vulnerabilities in that smart contract of the token itself. And because they did that and took that time to do so, you as a token holder in that ecosystem get rewarded with free EVO coins passively on top of everything else. So it's a win-win when it comes to the community member.
Ritchy, how'd you get involved in this? Like, you sound so knowledgeable now. How'd you get involved and why?
So my background isn't even tech at all. It was bricklaying, it was construction. And then 7 years ago, I got started with, someone told me about blockchain and I went through the progress of like, what is this? Where's the value in this? And I didn't see it at first. And then a few months of really like studying and learning about it. And then I got that moment, it's like, holy crap, this is going to be everywhere. Like this is going to encompass all of our lives, whether we know or not, right? It's going to be the car, you turn the car on, you don't know how it works, but you use it every single day. Blockchain will be a part of the fabric of our lives going forward because of the trustlessness of it. So over the last 7 years, I've mined for crypto, I've launched tokens, I've done NFT collections and seen the good and the bad of what we've had to this point. And that's all been a path, a journey to what evolved blockchain is today. So what I didn't know, I've self-taught, I've learned over time, and working with people, working on projects, just learning as much as I possibly can. I'd be working till 5, 6 o'clock at night, and I'd be up till 2 in the morning just doing blockchain related research or like launching stuff, playing around with stuff. And I saw the pain points that I had, and Evolve Blockchain was my solution to my own problems.
Fantastic. Sounds interesting. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back. And I'm going to ask Ritchy some of those basic questions that a lot of us have about what some of these words are, this language, this new world that we've got foisted upon us, how it changes things. And then he's got these two apps that are making use of his Evolve blockchain, the health app and the voting app. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting with Ritchy Marques. He is the founder and CEO of Evolve Blockchain and a couple of different, I don't know what you call them, apps, companies, users of Evolve Blockchain called Evolve Health and Evolve Voting. What's the right word? Is it company app?
So there are companies that run these applications. They're decentralized applications is what they'd be referred to.
So it's both then. Okay. Let me ask you a couple of rudimentary questions just so I sort of understand. Because a couple of minutes ago, you said you mined crypto. What the heck is mining crypto?
So basically, you run a computer. So you're running a node. So Evolve Blockchain, for example, we're a hybrid proof of stake. And you can participate in that validation process by having 1 million EVO coins. You lock them up, and your computer works 24/7 for the network. As a result, when you are chosen to do the next block, to put all those transactions in a block and have it put on the network itself, you get rewarded in EVO coins for doing so. So they refer to as mining, but you're validating the network. You're securing the network. So every block, a different validator or node operator is chosen to do that block. And as a result, there's now hundreds, if not thousands of node validators around the world in a decentralized system, all partaking in the consensus. So the validation and putting of this information, these transactions on the blockchain and securing the chain itself.
So rather than it being on a cloud that is owned by Google or Microsoft or something like this, which I think are these massive data farms that I hear about, what you're talking about is a whole bunch of decentralized storages of data on different people's computers, and that's mining crypto?
Yeah, so that's referred to as mining and or validating in the consensus method. So hundreds and thousands or thousands of people all over the world all have the up-to-date ledger, every single data point from Evolve blockchain, from the Genesis block, the beginning, to the last block that we just sealed, which was 3 seconds ago, and then 3 seconds from now, right? Everyone has that record on their node, and they keep track. Think of like 1,000 bookkeepers, and no one can have a different record. They're all exactly the same, identical to each other.
Are we going to
As
get
one
just a
block.
huge amount of data that is useless, that's kept forever?
No, it's very important because of the trustless nature of blockchain, right? The immutability, all that information has to be accessible to everyone, right? And at a second's notice, it should not be anything that's not viewable when it comes to the transactions.
Richie,
We don't know who owns this
I've
wallet.
got albums, I've got 45, I've got 8-track, I've got cassettes, I've got iPods, I've got CDs, I've got Spotify, I've got so many different ways of storing music. I probably have the same song on 8 to 10 different, I don't know what you call them, vehicles to store music. How
So
do I
there's
know that this blockchain, which is on computers right now, is going to be relevant in the future? It's going to be all taken over by some new technology, no?
that may be it. As in, like the evolution of the space, there's always a next technology that comes through, right? So Evolve right now, we're trying to be the next generation of blockchain tech, and eventually, maybe in the future, someone develops something else, and that's just innovation. We as humans are meant to innovate, right? So if I think that Evolve will be the end all solution 1,000 years from now, I don't know that, right? I'm trying to make the solution for the next 100 years
But your
plus,
data
right? The
in
data,
the data in the blockchain is going to evolve and get transferred into whatever that new storage.
exactly. So that would be like merging into or building on top of Evolve blockchain. So I see it as we've built on top of Ethereum starting point. They built the roads that we can run on, that we didn't build all those ourselves. We took advantage. We've benefited from the work that others have done, and we appreciate everything they've done, a lot of us being open source. And then we're going to build on top of that. And eventually someone's going to build on top of Evolve, and we'll have to evolve with them in the future. Now, there's 2 points when it comes to the data on the blockchain itself. When it comes to the data gets hashed and then put into the chain itself, and then you have to unhash that data to see it again. The more efficient way to do it when it comes to Evo Health and Evolve voting, for example, is we store the encrypted hashed data on decentralized servers and use the blockchain itself as the access point to the data on those servers. Okay, this brings the trust, the stability, and the security that other systems don't have, with the access point being the blockchain itself.
Okay, so tell me, what is Ethereum and what is Bitcoin? Are they just other blockchains?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is the starting blockchain. It's the king of all blockchains, and we owe a lot of what we have to Bitcoin for starting what is blockchain. But it, unfortunately, because of the scalability that Bitcoin has, it only does so many transactions per second, and it takes a long time for the blocks to get done. So it wasn't viable when it came to not smart contracts, the decentralized applications that need to be quicker, right? It was very slow because there's only so many. Think of a door. There's only so many people that can fit through that door. So the bigger the door, the more transactions can go through, the more people can use it faster, right? The other problem was because the scalability wasn't there, the transaction fees went higher because people were just saying, okay, I'll pay more to go to the door first. I want to get in before he does, even though he was here first. I'll pay $10. I'll pay $15. So it became not viable solution when it came to me buying a coffee at a coffee shop. So then Ethereum was built secondly, and that solved the problem of Bitcoin. It was more scalable, had more transactions, a bigger door, right? And dApps and smart contracts were done on Ethereum to the point where that was the next evolution. That was the next step in blockchain technology. But then Ethereum got so big and so many people started using Ethereum, the same problem happened. The scalability wasn't there yet. And the transaction fees had to go up. So we were actually launching an NFT collection that we didn't end up launching because we were selling the NFTs for $50 and the transaction fees on Ethereum were $50. So I'm like, it's going to be $100 NFT, but it's only a $50 NFT cost type thing. It doesn't make sense. So we had to pause that project. And that's one of the reasons why Evolve blockchain came to fruition. Ethereum is doing 30, 40 transactions a second. and Evolve blockchain is doing 100,000 transactions per second. And as a comparison, Visa and MasterCard does 20,000 per second, right? So it's a natural progression. These are stepping stones. These are who started it, Bitcoin, then Ethereum. There's a bunch of other networks as well that are pretty good as well, and they have higher scalability than Ethereum does.
Okay. Hold on. So you say that you've got a 3-second block time and 100,000 TPS scalability. Explain to me why that's important and how it compares to what other people have got.
So the scalability problem. So when millions of people are trying to use the same network, but they need it to be quick. So I want to send a transaction from here to anywhere in the world, and I want it to be done in 3 seconds. I don't want to be waiting for a minute. I don't want to be paying $50 in fees. So that scalability, the 100K TPS, right? MasterCard and Visa does roughly 20,000 TPS, right? Transactions per second. Think of when you go to pay for something at the store and you scan your Visa and you wait for 20, 30 seconds sometimes, maybe more, for it to say approved.
So how are you 5 times faster than Visa?
Our consensus method. So our hybrid proof of stake allows us, so one part of it's proof of authority. Everyone who's a validator is KYC'd with the foundation, and the other side's proof of stake. So our nodes take turns validating the next block in order, and then depending how many coins you have to go first or last, but you don't overlap someone else. So our consensus method is more efficient at putting these transactions through to the point where we've gotten 100,000 TPS plus. So we haven't stopped at 100,000. Just that's our where we stopped testing. Let's say that.
You've got a new app company called Evolve Voting Model.
Yep.
What's that all about?
Okay, so Evolve Voting Model is decentralized voting. So over the last few years, I think it's been very apparent or obvious that the voting systems in some countries are not as efficient as they should be. And a lot of people don't have much faith in the voting system itself. So similar to Evolve Health, Evolve Voting Model will use blockchain technology and decentralized servers around the world. And for every voting in, let's say, Canada, you'd have servers decentralized around Canada, and vice versa for US. We can bring forward a voting model that you can verify your vote the second that vote is done. So 5 o'clock tonight, this vote's done for bill, whatever it is, right? And you're giving your MP or your representative your voice, your opinion on what he should vote on. And after all, they represent you. They're there to work for you, not for themselves. So when they see 70% of their constituents voted to vote no on that bill, that congressman, that representative, that MP should vote the same way of the people who put him in office, because he represents them or she represents them. So this brings a trustless system and verifiable. You've never been able to put a ballot in, go home, and then on your computer check where your vote was, right? You're hoping it got counted, right? And there are some systems that are trying to do something similar, but we believe we have a system that's above the rest right now.
So if we could use this in a provincial general election or a federal general election?
Yeah, and now it would be getting MPs in office that support the system and want to use this as a tool to communicate with their constituents. So before I go, if I'm an MP, for example, and I have a bill that's coming up in a week, I propose this on the application to my constituents.
How's this different than a poll?
It's very similar to a poll. In the actual execution of it, actually with polls, this would actually be a true poll. So a lot of polls, you go to a store or a city center and you ask 1,000 people, then you extrapolate that to millions, and that doesn't really work, right? You get a very small data point there, and you're saying this is it goes across the country, right? With ours, if we have millions of users using this voting application, we can have true polls of millions of people and get a general sense.
How are you going to get everyone involved in doing this?
Well, you can give them the option. So we have the system we have now, or we have a system that you partake and can verify everything. And as a result, you now have more power, more influence than you did before, right? This could be used to do referendums. This could be used for many different aspects of our voting and governance that before now we never had, right? You have to do, like, say, a petition. You have to go around the block and get everyone to sign a paper and then give that to your MP. And then if there's not enough votes, then it is what it is.
We could effectively get rid of the MPs or the MPPs and just have government by ourselves.
That's an option, and that's if the people would like to do that, then that's something they can go down that road.
Well, if everyone's voting, we
Right?
don't. Why do you need a representative that all they're
It's
going to do
direct
is
democracy.
count the votes?
Yeah, it's the form of direct democracy where, well, there's certain things. So the other thing I would say about that is there's certain parts where people won't really have too much interest in certain voting, like smaller stuff that they're not really interested in, but more important bills that they're like, hey, wait a second, something big, like I don't want to lock down again, for example, people will participate more there. So the MP will still have that kind of responsibility for the smaller stuff where he doesn't get enough actual feedback from the community to make choices for the community, as is his job, right? But when it's more important things that people say, you know what, I want to partake in this vote. Not to say you shouldn't give all the votes, all the options to the people. You should, every single one. But if no one partakes in some of them, he's going to have to go by his best
How do
judgment.
you make sure that I don't vote 10 times, that I
Okay,
pretend
great
I'm
question.
five other people, that I that dead people are voting, people that aren't Canadian citizens that are voting. How do you protect all that?
Awesome. Great question. So you'll have a voting ballot. Okay. Your voting ballot is bound to your wallet. Your wallet can only have one voting ballot, and you have to register KYC to receive that voting ballot.
What's a
So
KYC?
know your customer or know your client. It's basically you're verifying who you are. You go to either the city center, you do it digitally on your phone, and you have a piece of ID. You show, okay, I live in Vaughan, I live in Alberta, wherever it is. Now you'll receive a voting token for that area because you verified you live in that area, and then there's going to be voter updates or voter roll updates over time where you can verify if that person's still living there or moved somewhere else, which is very important, right? You see a lot of dead people voting these days. It's amazing how they do that.
It is. And then, Elon Musk was talking about people getting Social Security that were over 150 years old. I'm not sure if I believe that or not, but that's what he said. Anyway, we're going to take a break for some messages and come back with a couple of concluding comments on the blockchain with Ritchy and talking about where is this all going. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking to Ritchy Marques, CEO, founder of Evolve Blockchain, Evolve Voting, Evolve Health, about the blockchain and what's it all about. Ritchy, just, give me 5-10 years from now. Where's this all going? Where do you think it's like? I don't know what you're talking about. This has been very educational. Do I have to learn this all, or, am I going to be saying goodbye to Canadian dollars and to all of the way we currently vote and all the way we currently keep our health? Where's it all going?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a big progress when it comes to decentralization in the next 5, 10, 15 years, where you don't necessarily know or need to know the blockchains in the background of all these applications. You just need to know the application is secure, right? So it's like any technology. We went from horses to cars to internet came out. Now blockchain is the next one, and AI is going to take a part of that too, right? We will gradually move to a decentralized networks to more efficient ways of doing our day-to-day tasks, right? Whether that's bookkeeping or agricultural or shipping, tracking shipping stuff, or healthcare or voting. A lot of these sectors of our lives can be greatly improved. Fraud prevention. There's so many different aspects where this technology, and it sounds scary to some, it's like, oh, it's all scams. No, it's not. Or the price is going up and down, irrelevant. The blockchain technology itself is revolutionary when utilized properly. You're seeing governments get involved. You're seeing societies shift, like El Salvador. Bitcoin's national tender in El Salvador right now as we speak. US is starting a cryptocurrency reserve. They see the long term. They tried to stop it at first and suppress it and shut it down. They couldn't. Technology, whether you like it or not, is going to be in our lives in the future. So now it's the part where it's important, where we decide which blockchains we use, which technology we use in our day-to-day life, and that's a choice we all have, and no one can force that upon you, right? You're going to make that decision for yourself because of what you believe is the best option, the best solution. So the next few years can be very exciting, and I think that we're going to improve our lives using this, not just.
And as a newbie, the first step is go to somewhere, and Evolve Blockchain might be one, and do what? Get a wallet.
Start learning, right? Step one is learning how to interact in this ecosystem, right? So our educational courses are a great resource for that, and that'll be up soon. You start a wallet, we give you a website where it's one click. Now you have a digital wallet, right? We'll have what we call Evo Million Wallet campaign. You get started, sign up with your email, and you get a free Evo coin. So now you can play around the ecosystem without any risk whatsoever to you. And that was meant to bring in mass adoption, right? It's meant to give you something that's not really you're not buying this coin, you're getting it for free. You can launch a token with that. You can send some to your friends with that. You can start that process of educating yourself on this technology, because it's not going anywhere, right? We're going to have to use this regardless in the future, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be a benefit to us, not something that's going to weigh us down. And I see the skepticism. I see the people who think that this is going to lead to something else. You have to decide who's going to control the technology you're using in the future, whether that's a centralized system where a government's controlling that, or a decentralized system where it's open sourced and there's, like yourself, me, Brian, and 1,000 other people running nodes around the world, decentralizing the system and securing it, and no one really controls it. It's controlled by everyone partaking in that consensus, but not one person themselves. Not even
Marques, Evolve Blockchain. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. This has been very helpful.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. I appreciate Ritchy, and this is a new technology. It's a new future, and I don't know. Sounds like it's going to have a big influence on our lives, and so probably something that we should go and check out a little bit. So, Ritchy, thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6:00 on AM radio, which sounds so old versus what Ritchy's talking about. But I'm also on the internet at www.saga960am.ca, and you can get me on podcast servers and social media and YouTube. Maybe I should go on the blockchain. Who knows? We'll have to check it out.
We'll see.
Night, everybody.